Good evening and good Shabbos. It's a pleasure to have you with us from wherever you're watching. Welcome to Congregation Beth Yeshurun. And we continue in our prayer book, the Siddur Lev Shalem. If you don't have a prayer book with you at home, you can find the liturgy on our website or whatever prayer book you may have. In our Siddur Lev Shalem, we turn to page 5 and we continue now with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashem.
Continue on page 11, Lechuna Ranana.
Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Adonai. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Adonai. Naria, Naria, Letzuri Sheinu, Nekadam Panav Betodah. Naria, Naria, Letzuri Sheinu, Izmirat Naria Lo. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Adonai. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Adonai.
The heavens shall be glad and the earth rejoice. The sea and its fullness roar, Yismachu Hashemayim. The middle of page 14.
Yismechu Hashemayim, Yismechu Hashemayim, Yismechu Hashemayim, Betagel Haaretz. Yismechu Hashemayim, Hashemayim, Yismechu Hashemayim, Hashemayim, Yismechu Hashemayim, Betagel Haaretz. Yiramaya. Yeah.
now let us welcome the Sabbath bride as synagogues throughout the Jewish world do on Friday nights. Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala, page 23. Seated now as we give thanks to God with the singing of the psalm Tov Lahadot Ladonai, Lozamer Leshimcha Elyon, page 27. Now we invite all those in mourning and all those observing a yurtzeit to rise for the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, page 30. Yitzgadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, v'yamad divrach yirteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayeh dekol beit Yisrael, v'agalav v'zman kariv v'yemru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam omei amaya. Yitzbarach v'yishtabach b'tpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol berkata v'shirata. Tishbechata v'nechemata da'amiram v'yama v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yimru amen. And now, everyone, please rise as we continue with the Barg, page 39, to begin the Ma'ariv section of our service. Let us now continue in our service, page 40, Avat Olam.
Avat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Avta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limata, Al Ken Adonai Eloheinu, B'shochbeinu Kumeinu, Nasiach B'chokecha, Adonai, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Avta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limata, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, U'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed, Ki heim chayenu ve'orech yameinu, U'bahem nekei yomam v'layla, ve'ahavadcha, Al tasir mimenu le'olamim, Baruch ata Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha, ve'hayu hadarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Continue silently. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Middle of page 44 for Nichamocha. Nichamocha ba'elim Adonai, Nichamocha nedar b'kodesh Torah, Torah deilot. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar v'kodesh nora 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 tehirot. Turn to page 45. Join in Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, lehamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, lehamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Ushmor etzeteinu, uvomeinu, lechaim ulshalom, me'ata ve'ad olam, ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, ve'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, ve'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim. And we turn to page 46 for Vishamru. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein bnei Yisrael, oti leolam, oti leolam. Veshameru bnei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, v'shameru et Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. V'shameru et Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Yingadal ve'yikadash shemei Rabba, Amen. Ve'alma divrach yirotei ve'yamlik malchutei. בחייך וביומך ובחיי דרך בית ישראל בעגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו אמן בעגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו אמן אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתעלה 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 שמי כל שריחו לעילם מכל ברכתה ושירתה ושבחתה ונחמתה לאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן ואמרו אמן ואמרו אמן ואמרו אמן אמן.
And let us now rise for the silent Amidah, page 47 through page 52.
To page 51, and we join in Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Ra Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Ra Tasim le'olam. Ki atahu Adon l'chol hashalom ki atahu melech Adon l'chol hashalom shalom rav al Yisrael tasim le'olam shalom rav al Yisrael tasim le'olam v'tov b'necha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך שלום רב על ישראל תשים לעולם שלום רב על ישראל תשים לעולם את עמו ישראל בשם.
Every Friday night, we take a moment during our service to pray for those in our families, in our community, those we know who are ill, who need an extra prayer, a Mishaberach prayer. And so the cantor now leads us in our prayer that's found on the inside back cover of our Seed Harim, Debbie Friedman's version of the Mishaberach prayer.
Mishaberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing for us and all of those we love. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
And we continue now with Kaddish Shalem, page 54. You may be seated.
David Kadash Shemei Rabba, Yalmadi B'Achilutei, B'Amlich Malchutei, Echayechon V'Mechon V'Chayich V'Ben Yisrael, B'Agalav Izman Kariv, Eimeru Amen, Yeshmei Rabba Mevarach, Le'alam Ul'al Me'al Maya, Yitbarach, V'Yishtabach V'Yitbar V'Yitramam V'Yitnasei, V'Yitadar V'Yitale V'Yitalal, Shemei Nekudesha, Richu, Elam Mikmechada Veshirata, Tushbechata V'Nechemata, Na'amiran Be'alma V'Imeru, Amen. Titkabel Tzloton V'Arton Echol Yisrael, Todam Avon V'Shmaya V'Imeru, Amen. Yehi Shlam Arav Min Shmaya, V'Chaim Aleinu V'Kol Yisrael V'Imeru, Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Imromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru. Amen.
Good Shabbos again, everyone. We thank you for joining us from wherever you are this evening. And like you, I'm still getting over what happened this past Wednesday. And over the past 20 years, all of us have seen things we never thought we would see. 9/11, Hurricane Harvey, what happened here in Houston, what happened here in this congregation where I'm standing. There were 6 feet of water. A pandemic. And now add to the list the storming of the U.S. Capitol. Even during the Civil War, the Great Depression, World War II, the Capitol remained secure. Nothing like what we saw on Wednesday has happened since the War of 1812. Last Friday, I spoke about the miracle that there had been peace on our streets since a very contentious election. I spoke too soon. We were again reminded what happens when we allow lies, incitement, and hateful rhetoric to go unchecked. As former President George W. Bush said on Wednesday night, the violent assault on the Capitol and disruption of a constitutionally mandated meeting of Congress was undertaken by people whose passions have been inflamed by falsehoods and false hopes. And just as I criticized the looting and violence we witnessed this past summer, I am doing the same tonight. Looting, violence, rioting, no matter who does it, no matter the reason, we condemn that, of course. Tonight, I'm not here to talk politics. You get enough of that on cable news, or talk radio, or on the internet. I truly understand why people vote on either side of the aisle. I respect both parties. And it is not my job to discuss who you should have or should not have voted for this past November. But my job as a rabbi is to defend something even more important. Something that I know we can all agree upon, no matter which party we support. Democracy. Often I think we forget just how fragile democracy is. In the scale of human history, just how revolutionary it is. For thousands and thousands of years, an overwhelming majority of humankind lived under tyrants and dictators with no basic human rights whatsoever. Our ancestors' lives were often lost on the whims of these tyrants. The founding fathers of our great republic, believing in the basic biblical beliefs that you and I, all of us, are created in the image of God, set about on an experiment. To set in motion a government of the people, by the people, for the people. To create a system of government where everyone should be entitled to equal representation and equal protection under the law. In order for this revolutionary form of government to work, checks and balances were created, constitutional norms were established, judicial freedoms were granted. For nearly 250 years it has worked, and yes, it's not been perfect, no country is, but it has worked really well. People from every corner of the globe have envied our system of government that have protected the freedoms that you and I enjoy every single day. All that our founding fathers dreamed about creating was based on one important premise. There would always be a peaceful transition of power. Always. The mob who attacked the U.S. Capitol, our temple of democracy, attacked this fundamental basis of our sacred democracy because they sought to install someone who lost as the next president of the United States. The disorder and violence of Wednesday are the antithesis of democracy and contradict what all America stands for. The peaceful transition of power is the cornerstone of American democracy, and we must protect that peaceful transition of power even when we are on the losing side. I've made a pledge to myself. After this week's events, when elected leaders, friends, fellow members continue to tell me that the election was rigged, I can no longer be quiet. Even when we are upset by who won or lost, even when our person didn't win, we cannot subscribe to made-up conspiracy theories. That's not what we as Jews stand for. That's not what we as Jews should be about. We are a people that have upheld the values of integrity and honesty. Truth. Truth is so paramount in our religious tradition that the rabbis tell us, emet, truth, is the seal of God. And they also teach, God can only be found where there is truth, and God's absence is felt wherever there is falsehood. Yes, the election was imperfect, as all elections are, but there was no widespread conspiracy to give the election to Joe Biden. Out of the 62 lawsuits filed challenging the presidential election, 61 failed. Some cases were dismissed for lack of standing, others thrown out based on the merits of the allegations. And the decisions have come from both Democratic-appointed and Republican-appointed judges, including federal judges appointed by our current president. The lone victory for the Trump team was a Pennsylvania judge who ruled that voters could not go back and cure their ballots if they failed to provide proper identification 3 days after the election. You know how many ballots that affected? A few hundred. Joe Biden won Pennsylvania by over 81,000 votes. In the state of Georgia, Republican state officials, after 3 recounts, Republican state officials certified the election for Joe Biden. And they have reiterated again and again that there was no illegal ballots. They have affirmed their state election was conducted and counted fairly. And of all people, William Barr said that the U.S. Justice Department uncovered no evidence of widespread voter fraud that could have changed the outcome of the 2020 election. What else do some people need to hear? When some promote fraudulent claims and conspiracies, they are not upholding the ideals of our religious tradition, and they are not protecting that peaceful transition of power. As a rabbi, when it comes to acts of insurrection for the country that I know we all love, I must speak out. That is my job as a rabbi. And I hope all of you understand that. I know it's hard to be on the losing side, but I must defend the truth. But if you want to discuss, please know this is not about being a Republican or being a Democrat. It's not about who you voted for, Trump or Biden. And I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm your rabbi. And I discuss Jewish values. And I would love to meet with any of you who disagree with anything that I say tonight or agree with what I say tonight. And I'm not here to discuss, or nor would I want to meet to you to discuss whether you voted wrongly or rightfully. That's not my role. But I am here to meet with you, to hear what you have to say, to discuss Emmett, to discuss the truth, and discuss Jewish values. And if you are upset by what happened, I also ask all of you, don't attack the people in your life who you may disagree with. That gets us nowhere. When we attack other people, whether it's people in person or on Facebook, we get nowhere. Instead, do what I'm going to try to do, and I'm open to doing with any of you. Discuss the issues. The issues. Try to find common ground. That's the only way we move forward. That's the only way we help our country move forward from one of the worst days in the history of the United States. When we discuss issues and not attack others because they disagree with us, that's the way in which we make sure that we have an effective government. Our earliest rabbis felt the same, and they felt effective government was paramount. In the Mishnah, the rabbis insisted that we not only pray, but we act for the welfare of a stable government. In the famous Pirkei Avot, Rabbi Hanina teaches that without there being a government that is properly trusted, for whom the people, an overwhelming majority of the people, hold a certain amount of awe and respect. If that doesn't happen, the rabbis warned us 2,000 years ago, that lawlessness will reign. The Talmud went a step further when the rabbis teach us, pray for the welfare of the government, for without it, man would swallow his fellow men. More than ever, as we saw on Wednesday, this ancient wisdom holds true. My friends, you and I, our community, American Jews, have succeeded in this country because our freedoms have always been protected. Our ancestors in the old country, my great-grandparents, your great-grandparents, could have never dreamed about the protection that we as Jews are blessed with every day of our lives. We cannot take them for granted. As a minority within American society, we should not only cherish, but we must protect the democratic principles enshrined in the United States Constitution. Civil liberties and those of other minorities are guaranteed only when all leaders and all people affirm the rule of law. There is a reason that many in that mob who attacked the Capitol represented a who's who of the most extreme white supremacist groups. Those people, those dregs of society, they want to take away our basic rights and freedoms. They have one goal: to create a new America based on their vision of white power and neo-Nazi ideology. Confederate flags, Nazi symbols, dregs of society wearing shirts that said 6 million wasn't enough, were on full display at the Capitol. And I know that sickens all of us. I spoke to a veteran last night. In World War II, against those Nazi symbols, he could not believe that they were on full display at the Capitol of the United States. Imagine if you're a Holocaust survivor whose family was killed by people who wore those Nazi symbols with pride, and to see those again in Washington, D.C. The question I want to leave with you tonight: can we rise to the defense of freedom? Can we rise to the defense of freedom? As we read again in our Torah portion tomorrow, we are now in Parshat Shemot, the beginning of the book of Exodus, and Moses sees an Egyptian taskmaster beating an Israelite slave. The Torah tells us that before taking action in striking down the Egyptian, he turned this way and that way, and he saw that there was no one. What does that mean? Why does he look both ways before smiting the Egyptian taskmaster? Most read that to say that Moses checked to make sure there was no one watching so he could take his act and get away with it. And that would be a reasonable concern for Moses or anyone taking dramatic action. But I agree with my colleague, Rabbi Adam Kligfeld, reading the commentator of the Netziv, who taught that really Moses looked that way and this way when he saw ki ein ish, that there was no man or woman, no other mensch, no other person, no one who would stand up and do what needed to be done. He knew he needed to do it himself. Moses stood up, and no one else had the courage to do so. Tonight, I call upon all of us to take the stance that Moses took, to stand up, to have the courage, to remember what the late Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs once said: freedom is not a gift, it is a moral achievement. And so it doesn't ever fragment or dissolve, God forbid, in this country. We all need to tend to it, to protect it, to get more involved, to defend our basic freedoms, to guard our democracy, and to work to elect leaders who will always do the same. So we can always protect our union from disarray and insurrection, so we can always protect the peaceful transition of power, and so that all of us, all Americans, can continue to live in peace. So this Shabbat, we pray first and foremost for more peace, more shalom for all Americans. First now, in that prayer, the cantor leads us in those ancient words which we recite at every service, Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom. May he who makes peace in the heavens make peace for us, for all Israel, and for all humankind.
Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu, Shalom Aleinu, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru Amen. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru Amen. Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu, Shalom Aleinu, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru Amen. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru Amen. Amen. Amen.
And we now continue with a song that we all know. We rarely, if ever, I think, sing it in the synagogue. But the cantor and I felt that this night was most appropriate. God bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
And now let's continue in our service as we remain standing for the words of the Aleinu, page 56.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומשה בקרוב השמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אלוהינו, אבן דרכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינו. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
We now continue with the Mourner's Kaddish on page 58. And this week we offer condolences to the families of Robert Wittenberg, Melvin Cohen, Catherine Turncott, Frume Engel, Mel Mattenton Bishop, Joe Victor, Mimi Tobin, and Ruth Binder. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, v'yamad divrach yirteh v'yamlik malkuteh, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayeh dekol beit Yisrael, v'agalav v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam omei amaya. Yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitzba'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tishbechata v'nechemata, da'amiram bi'amal v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yimru amen. And you may be seated. This week at Beth Yeshurun, we're honored to celebrate the anniversaries of 3 couples that are all joining us online. We wish you could be here. Of course, we understand and we miss you and look forward to seeing all of you soon. First, celebrating their 15th wedding anniversary, Dory and Jason Tybell. Happy anniversary, guys. And one good thing you wanted to share with all of us over this past year is that you've had the opportunity to spend more time together. Not only as a family with your 10-year-old Reed and your 8-year-old Maddie, but with each other, strengthening your marriage, building even more of a foundation for years to come. And you feel very blessed and grateful to have each other, and you feel blessed for your family's health. To only more health for many more years to come. Dory and Jason, happy 15th wedding anniversary. Celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary, Claudia and Sergio Soroka. Claudia and Sergio, you feel blessed to have your children, Ryan and Rima, Melania, and your grandchildren, Saul and Sage, so close to home and in your lives and hearts throughout this difficult year. I miss your 2 sons and, of course, your daughter and your son, and, of course, your daughter-in-law, Rima, and your grandchildren. But I hope to see them and you soon as well as you celebrate 4 decades together as husband and wife. Happy anniversary. And finally, celebrating 41 years of marriage, Judy and Kenneth Arfa. Judy and Ken, you feel very lucky this past year that your immediate family was healthy and safe. And we do too. And may the 2 of you continue to celebrate many more years of safety and health. And happy 41st anniversary. And to all our couples, Mazel Tov, and many more good years to come. I want to share just a few announcements with you as we progress through this new year and the programming really picks up. The online programming, we encourage you, of course, to see our new mini message, follow the weekly happening emails, or just go to our website or email, really, any of us, your leaders, your synagogue leaders, your clergy, our incredible staff, to find out any questions you have. We're here for you. And this upcoming Wednesday, we have our next 100 Jewish Men with the Jewish Federation CEO and President, Carrie Saratovsky. I'll be hosting a lunch with the rabbi this Thursday with special guest Joseph Gidler of Leket Israel, the National Food Bank of Israel, and he'll be joining us from Jerusalem. Later this month, we hope all of you will have an opportunity to join us for our special virtual congregational meeting to ratify our new constitution. It's very important we have there as many people, many members as possible. And it will be taking place via Zoom on Sunday, January 24th at 4 p.m. We'd love for you to RSVP, to find out what's going on in the synagogue, and to be part of this very important annual meeting. And we hope you'll join us for Shabbat on January 29th for our annual Sisterhood Shabbat. And not only will members of our sisterhood participate in our service, but we'll also have the opportunity to recognize them for all the incredible programming and support our sisterhood does for us throughout the year. And lastly, watch this coming week for a new program that will roll out especially for our grandparents, grandfriends, and grandkids. Via Zoom, we'll be doing a Tu B'Shvat craft together, and then have an opportunity for each family to have a virtual visit. So look for more information for that in upcoming announcements. And with that, I want to again wish everybody a good Shabbos. And for any of our children, our grandchildren who are watching this evening, we give you the blessings of our people that we recite every Friday night for our sons. We say, Yesimcha Elohim Ke'Ephraim U'Ke Menashe. May God bless you like Ephraim and Menashe and all the good and young boys of our tradition. And for our girls, we say, Yesimech Elohim Kesara Rivka Rachel V'Leah. May God bless you like Sarah, Becca, Rachel, and Leah, and all the girls of our tradition. And for all of our children, may God always bless you with shalom, with peace. And let us say, Amen. And now please rise as we end our service, first with the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, Shabbat kodesho be'ahava u'vratzon inchilanu, zikaron le'masei bereshit, ki hu yom techila le'mikrei kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, hivanu v'chareta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim, v'shabbat באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו, ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. שבת שלום, שבת שלום, שבת 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 שלום, שבת שלום, שבת שלום, Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom.
Good Shabbos, everyone.